Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time here with me, well, I'm glad you're here. Each week I'm here with you talking to myself about things that weigh on my mind and heart, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, well, we can adjust our perspectives as you listen. Hey, if you're struggling with something that needs immediate attention, please know that help is available. Just dial 988 nationwide in the U.S. to reach the Mental Health and Suicide Crisis Hotline. All of us here at CLW Studios believe that mental health is a vital part of our well-being. The more people I meet and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of your life that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at me are for thickening up. First and foremost, I want to say welcome, friends, to the first episode of Season 3 right here at Radical Joy. We've completed 2 full years and 100 plus episodes, and now we're moving into Season 3. And for this, I wanted to reach out and go in a very similar direction, but also in a very specific one. Today, something dawned on me, and I know this seems pretty unusual and perhaps just a little silly. The name of the podcast is Radical Joy. Not tender, not precious, not sweet or loving, though all those adjectives are ones we love to use when describing joy. This particular vein of this wonderful concept today, specifically, is radical. Now, this has many different meanings, and the one that I'd like to lean into today as we speak of thickening up is the fact that we have just elected a president in the United States of America. We've had experience with this president in the past, and the things that he is promising for the future of the country. To some, is uncomfortable, to put it kindly. And so, as we face this next administration of a leader, we know there are parts of this that seem daunting in order to keep a positive attitude and to maintain joy in our lives. And I understand that. Again, I'm not trying to alienate or ostracize anyone by speaking in such a manner. What I am going to say is, for those of us who are perhaps feeling fear or trepidation, anger, frustration, disillusionment, disappointment in the way that the election results came back, well, allow me to remind you that there is a guerrilla side, Guerrilla, not primate, sense of the word enjoy. We rise up in joy despite the fear and the anger and the frustration. Hey, feel your feelings. I'm not saying you have any other needs or any other things that you should be focused on right now. I also want to make sure that you know that it is an act of rebellion to maintain that joy moving forward. And that is exactly where I flipping intend to stand. Okay, great. Wonderful. James, thank you for the loving energy. What is this thickening up you're talking about? Well, beloved listener, I'm so glad you asked that question. As a giver, as a person who loves to dish out goodwill, humor, laughter, a little bit of raucous, a little rambunctious on the regular, sometimes I tend to spread myself just a little too thinly. I do that among all of my people, especially the ones who are in the inner circle. And it feels as though sometimes whenever I do that, it feeds me to bursting. I am nourished to a point where I could bench press a Buick and move the world with one arm. And then there are times whenever I try to give so much of myself to those who continue to take that it weakens me, weakens my strength. My strength starts to ebb. So, what am I recommending, both as my own advice to myself and to what I hope will be wise counsel to anyone listening that does a similar thing in their own lives with their own people? Thicken up. Meaning, if the things that I'm giving out to the world start to make me feel depleted, what I will do is start to diminish that supply. What was once an abundance is now going to be used sparingly because I need to take care of me. There are people in my inner circle who continue to support and encourage, and in everything that I do, they are right there at my side. I continue to get reminders in my life that even my closest, nearest, and dearest aren't the only people in my corner who continue to pull for me, root for me. Lift me up to those people. I say welcome. Thank you. I love you. Please expect the reply to pardon me, the supply to remain at the same level, if not in more abundant supply in the days to come. Why? Because that is a two-way street to those in my life who, in all likelihood, are not listening at this moment. If, for whatever reason, something in our relationship is not feeding back, this may come across as selfish. This is what it is if you stick around. And I'm hoping it'll make more sense if this is not a reciprocating relationship. If I continue to give and give and give, and what I receive in return turns out to be a diminishing return, please understand I'm going to be taking the coming months and perhaps years to make sure that I assess my investments so that whatever I invest, it comes back to me with abundant returns and dividends. If our relationship is not one that I find to be worth the investment, please understand I will be allocating those resources elsewhere. It is about maintaining my fitness, okay? And I'm sharing this with all of you in an effort that we can all do the same. Is this out of spite? It most certainly is not. Is this some sort of like getting back or revenge or whatever? It isn't. I know the conversation is out there that is definitely an inspiration for this episode. Am I saying mistreat or somehow isolate yourself from these things? I am not. You must come to those decisions on your own, as I have made those decisions on my own. They are not easy. They're often very difficult. And just like healing or growth, they are rarely linear. They're backsliding. They're going back to something. There's testing waters to see if that was really what you wanted to do. And please understand when I say so many times, I've tried to test the water, and what I should have done was just stay gone. Am I encouraging those things? I am not. I am encouraging both to myself and anyone listening out there, if you were feeling as though you were spread too thin, if you feel as though you continue to pour this beautiful nectar of your own life and your own energy into another vessel that simply does not appreciate or does not pay back in kind, it doesn't have to be one for one. No, it most certainly does not. Those are the things we're going to be evaluating very closely moving forward during this new administration. It was very clear exactly what's going on. Everyone, anyone is allowed their vote. They're allowed their voice, their reasons behind who they voted for, any and all of that thing. I'm not saying anything to the contrary. Also, exactly as in our free speech. When you say whatever you like, your opinion is yours. No one can take it from you unless you allow it. Please understand, there are outcomes to everything. I'm going to let that sit there in silence for a minute. Does this sound like a thinly veiled threat to anyone else? Yes, it does, because I am so unbelievably exhausted. And I've used that word a lot in the last few weeks of continuing to be the buoyant, lighthearted, loving, faith-filled human being, hopefully the light and help to someone that does not wish to have my help. It's a difficult thing. It's an arrogance thing on my part, I think, to an extent. Please don't misunderstand me. I love what I get to do. I love the person I am, and I love whenever my friends reach out to tell me that what I'm trying to do is seen and is helpful. I am also here to make sure you know that you will give and give and give to certain parties that will continue to take and take and take, and they will defecate it either by consuming it and not getting any nourishment for it, or they will defecate on it because you are giving something valuable, precious of yourself to someone who says they want it, then do nothing with it. It's time to thicken up the vision I have in my mind, that the pictures that I have is if we are all it comes in a couple of pictures in my head, okay? One is either an octopus. Now, I love octopus. They're my favorite animal. I love to look at them. I love their intelligence, and their weirdness, and their beauty, their ability to blend and adapt, and their speed. There's so many things I love about an octopus, which may be why that comes to mind. Octopus have 8 tentacles, very malleable animals, okay? They can stretch in all directions. They also have tentacles, and underneath each one of those arms, they have suckers underneath each one of those tentacles. So whenever they reach out, not only can they stretch so far to reach, once they get a hold of it, they can hold on for dear life. Now, when I think of thickening up, I think that perhaps my tentacles are stretched in several directions, and that some of those, well, I wouldn't call it prey necessarily, but maybe the object of my desire and curiosity, aka a wonderful friend, a nourishing relationship, someone who cultivates greatness in me because they truly see it in me and want me to continue to move toward it. Well, they will move closer, even wrapped in a tentacle with those delicious suckers, closer to the body, which means that I don't have to stretch. I don't have to put that energy out. They're already curling back in toward the center body of the animal. Now, see, that is my goodwill. That is me. However, we want to look at it in that respect. Then there's the other side of that argument where someone is pulling and straining and pulling farther and farther away from the center, farther from my heart, farther away from all the rest of the organism. And it's not that they want to break away, they want to pull at it. So even the suckers that I have on this object, this person, this spirit in my orbit, it's not even necessarily that I'm holding on to it as much as they are pulling at me. And that is difficult because now that tentacle is getting longer and stretching thinner. And the farther it gets from me, the less strength I have and the more effort I have to put into giving that nourishment out that one appendage. And they continue to take and they continue to pull. And even though I am giving indication that this is not a healthy thing to happen to me, it doesn't feel as though they mind. It doesn't feel as though the care is there to move closer in. They continue to pull and take. So, what I'm suggesting to us as beautiful, brilliant octopuses of goodwill, faith, light, love, strength, and kindness, is to let that sucker go and bring that tentacle back in. Now, okay, now here's the thing. I just got finished saying you don't have to let it go. Okay, great. I'm not saying you have to shun that object if it comes back within your orbit. What I am saying is we need to keep our tentacles closer to the body because there are those who want to wrap themselves in the love that you have in each of those appendages and continue to keep it close to you so that blood flow can stay closer so it doesn't stretch and strain the entirety of the organism. Because there are 7 other tentacles out there. And I'm not saying you got to keep something in each one, but a lot of us have plenty of them full, okay? And I want us to continue to think on that metaphor. Whenever we think of this, is this pulling away from me? Is this pulling that one part of me farther from the center, farther from my heart, farther from my brain, and just continuing to siphon off that energy because it is delicious? It is nourishing and strengthening. It is bold and full. And I can understand that many conversations that I've heard the last, few days, weeks, whatever, have been the fact that people are getting very upset because of the way people voted or the way people continue to live their lives. They're choosing friends and they are moving away from others. That's my air quote wrinkling by the mic. They choose to strengthen bonds between folks who vote in a similar way, meaning they pull for a certain ideal or a set of ideals that more closely aligns to who they want to be as people. And they are making more distance between them and people who vote in a way that doesn't necessarily resonate with the love or the care that we think their candidate or administration embodies. And the more conversation we've heard on this, well, politics isn't a reason to let go of people, okay? Let's explore that for just a second. Politics, whenever we're talking about whether or not we need a new bus line in town, or whether a new train is worth the expense, or whether it would be helpful to make it enough of an advantage for people to expend that resource. Those are politics. 100% holding on to the friendship, because that is not something that calls into question the humanity of the people voting, or those who benefit, or those who will come to detriment because of the policy or the politician set in place. Now, I'm starting to get real close to dangerous territory, and not nearly as nervous about it as I have been, just so we are clear. Voting for someone who takes rights away from women, voting for someone who takes rights away from marginalized groups, voting for someone who wants to make an enemy of people who literally make up less than 1% of the population of our great nation, to merely use that idea and people's lives and their livelihoods as fodder to be placed in a position of influence. I have no need for it. I don't. And if you think that makes me intolerant, correct. 100% accurate information. I do not tolerate that. 100%. It's one of those things where I cannot get on board with any of it. I continue to look at it, and I want to find a way. I really honestly do. Because there are people in my life that I have known since I was knee-high to a teaspoon, and they put these obstacles in our way because they do not understand that what they're doing, in my estimation, in my opinion, and here's the thing, this is my opinion, that vote hurts people. Hurts people I love. Hurts people I don't even want to qualify. It is something that relies on me, in my opinion, to do anything with it. What I do want to do is sit here and look at this camera and speaking into this microphone and say it is not enough to say the price of eggs and the price of gas was enough to hurt as many people who live and try to exist and do well and find happiness and pay taxes in the great nation of the United States of America. And so when I try to have these conversations, make this clear, we all double down. Every single one of us do. We're like, well, okay, well, no. I just still don't think, no, we've covered that already, and no longer is it my responsibility to continue to hear you repeat yourself so that I can find another tactic to try to sway the unsuitable. No, no. What this is now is the feeling of me pulling my tentacle back closer to my heart. It is the thought of me releasing the grip of those suckers underneath the tip of that tentacle. Okay? That's what it is. Am I releasing this? No, I am not. What I'm doing is making room for folks who need me more right now. If I can be so bold to say it, pardon me, if you want to talk about stuff like this, you can go find somebody over there that feels the same way you do, and y'all can talk about this thing together. A really interesting topic that people continue to bring up in the media, social and otherwise, is the fact that so many conservative folks who lean more toward the right, politically, financially, however you want to look at it, often keep people on, more air quotes, here they come, the other side. Because we are the feelers and the lovers and the people who, the peacemakers, honestly. And it is so nice to have people like that so that whenever you want to feel both sides of the aisle, you can definitely do that. And for the longest time, I was absolutely open to it because I understand it can be very tiring. Being around my people who lean left all the time can be a lot. We are a lot. I'm 100% going to admit it, that we're always artistic or breaking into song or doing something crazy or going off on adventures. And sometimes it's nice to have someone who is a grounding, anchoring effect for all this flight and sparkle that we tend to have over here on the left. Now, here's where it gets serious. I have no need to be someone's pet sparkle if, in the same breath, I know that they are using the small power we have individually that turns out to be this enormous influence when grouped in mass to hurt people who so often fall on my side of the spectrum. I don't want to make this a binary. I don't. I certainly didn't want to do this. I would have loved to have kept this as like a citizenry, a combination of everyone. There are too many things at stake right now to understand exactly the implication of it. The forecast is bleak. What we have seen thus far is not comforting. The reality may be very different, and honestly, I pray it is. I honestly do. Really, I do. I think there are a lot of very intelligent people who make things like economics and politics and policy their lot in life. It's what they do as a profession. And pardon me if I give a lot of credit and credence to their opinion and work experience. They are not looking favorably on what's coming. And if I'm going to be forced into some sort of fight or flight mode, if I'm supposed to be some sort of survivor, here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be making this as easy on myself as possible. I'm going to be bringing those tentacles in. Anybody who wants to sit close to my heart and pay attention to what I have to give in love, anyone who wants to sit close to my brain and pay attention, help me develop what I have in my mind, brain, wonderful. Absolutely, yes, I'm here for it. I am reaching a point where I am getting more difficult to reach. If what you offer me in return for my goodwill and what I hope to be wise counsel is a struggle, I am bringing those tentacles in, okay? I'm doing it. Another idea that I had in my mind whenever I was thinking about thickening up, if you ever pour like oil or maybe maple syrup, shout out to my Canadians, in the middle of a plate, right? And then you sop up whatever, you drag your piece of crusty baguette through the oil to make it that much more delicious. Oh, so nice. Or you drag that pancake or that biscuit through the maple syrup. Because don't you just love it? Like, let's just soak that up until this thing is soggy with it. Great. You've had that delicious bite. Now you're looking at the plate because now the main event is done. And now you're looking at the aftermath. You're looking at the thing. And there's this beautiful dollop of whatever you've got left behind on the plate. And the surface tension draws it back in. Because as you swipe through there, you made a stripe, right? You made a stripe through it. And whenever you leave it to its own devices, many times that stripe will actually start to globularize. I don't even know if that's a word, but it will become more of a circle or a sphere. It'll start to pull in because the natural order of things, the physics, is to stay close to the center. Just for the same way gravity works, the way physics works here on the planet Earth, it pulls in. It is an unnatural state to have to stretch for that. And that is the thing that continues to play in my mind. The farther I have to stretch, the more effort it takes. And right now, pardon me, I need all my heart close to the body, okay? And knowing things like this now, is that a deal breaker? Again, that's up to you. These kind of things I've had, a lot of people are like, I called it off. So great. I have a lot of friends who have a lot more to lose than I. And so whenever they make these decisions, it's not my job to judge them. It's my job to support them. A person who feels supported and strengthened from the people in their lives they love, it is a compliment. It is a huge, huge deal when someone is talking about removing fellowship from a person, especially if that person is a family member. I can't stress to you how important it is to know what a compliment is. If they come to you to discuss it with you, there is a circle of trust that is so steadfast. Please understand how important it is that they've come to you with the best I know to do. If someone comes to me with something like that, is to offer my love and support. And in the end, it is 100% their decision. I don't want to push them towards anything. I want to listen and listen and listen and listen. I want to leave a place open for them so they can talk about this with me. So the more I hear and the less I talk, the more they unload. We continue to go layer after layer after layer, deeper and deeper and deeper into the hurt and the fear and the anger and the shock that so many people are going through right now. Because all I'm doing is listening and leaving room for them to put down everything they're carrying. The decision becomes really simple. I haven't had to push anything or influence anything or any of that. All I've had to do is be present and support. The nod, the eye contact, continue to absorb what it is that you've got going and make sure they know just how wonderful and how special you feel that you are their safe spot. And they'll continue to do it. Maybe one of those things where they just need to unload for a minute because they don't have people in their lives that they can. They don't have family members that see them well enough so that they can do that with them. Maybe if they did, they wouldn't need to cut off that relationship. I don't love it. I've had situations like that in my life. I want to keep as much anonymity surrounding this topic as I possibly can. If you're a very good friend of mine, you already know. But I don't want to make anything awkward for folks in my life who perhaps don't. It is not easy to have to do that to a member of your family. It is not easy to be on the receiving end of that from a member of the family. I'll be honest, sometimes you don't know which one of those parties you are. I can laugh about it now because I've had years to work through it. And there's so much anger and so much sadness. There's so much loneliness, especially when it comes to a family member. And what you feel is an enormous loss. Be prepared. You think it's easy. You think it's quick. You think it's going to be one and done. Please understand that could not be farther from the truth. In my experience, sometimes you just need a place to lay it all down for a minute. Sometimes you need to chop it off entirely. Hey, make no mistake, I'm here for that too. I'm not trying to get all soft and quiet and close to the mic to make sure that if you're pondering it, that I even imply lightly that you need to stay for abuse and misunderstanding and willful ignorance and lack of respect. That is not it at all. That is another part of this thickening up in our radical era of joy. We're going to be flipping warriors about it if we must. Why? Because respect is not something everyone just gives you. So many have this expectation of you that I can treat you like absolute dog shit, and you must take it because we are related. We share a name. We share a bloodline. We share a similar chin, nose, eyebrow. Wrong. Not it. And I'm here to give you that permission right here, right now. I want to make sure you know what you may be entertaining as an outcome is not easy. I'm also making sure you know that just because you share a gene pool does not mean you have to share the bullshit. You got me now. Oh, I'm feeling good now. I hope I'm not stomping any toes. That's a lie. I hope I'm absolutely moving some people off their rear end to make a change in their lives because it is clear. It has never been more clear that in our lives there are people who so thoughtlessly, not a drop of malice in it, they just do not think enough of the situation, even though we have been talking about it for literal years. We have tried to discuss it in 17 different ways, and they simply refuse to listen. Why? Oh, why are we sharing our love, our joy, our kindness, our strength, our color, our sparkle, our song with people who do not want to hear all of it? No, no. I only want the single. Keep the album. When there are people in our lives that are begging to hear the rest of the record and want to buy every other piece in the collection, we need to start listening to that, friends. That's where we're going to get the thick, okay? It is time to look at this like a power lifter and not like some kind of cover model. No, I don't want six packs and lean. No, I want to be somebody that's going to be staunch. I want somebody that's going to get up underneath a 7,000-pound deadlift and pick it up like it was a quarter on the sidewalk. That's what I want. I want you thick as hell. I want 3 seasons that thick. I want you so strong you're immovable. I want you so strong that you can lift up any and every friend in your friend group that has earned this privilege. You can pick them up and you can squeeze them, and they will feel so safe and warm and completely enveloped by the phenomenon that is you, that the people who've been left on the outside to the skinny and the chill, they're going to have to find their own way forward. They have made choices. They have continued to make choices all along the way, even after we have explained to them in specific, minute detail what this would mean. It is time to find out. It is okay, children. Right? Love them. Babies, so precious, so precocious, so intelligent, so mischievous and delicious, when they do something that is dangerous, that is harmful, that is potentially dangerous to someone else, we must be stern and strong, and the consequence offered must be done and carried out to its completion. I got to spend some wonderful time with some friends in the UK back around New Year's, and they have this beautiful 2-year-old. No, wait. No, he's almost 3 now. Yeah. And he is the biggest stinker. God, I love this kid. He is so great. Whenever he feels as though you're not giving him quite enough attention, like you're watching the television or you're having a conversation with other grown-ups in the room, he'll just yell your name to get your attention, just to make sure that you don't forget that he's in the room. He's also to an age where he is pushing boundaries, which I understand is perfectly natural as part of the learning process. And when he does, most of the time, it's not a big deal. You know, okay, don't throw your toys. You're going to break the toy. Don't throw your toys because that could break something that you're throwing it at. And then we went to the zoo and he ran away. We're all trying to sort of, get the walker together, the stroller, whatever you want to call it. And he just bolted. And his dad went looking for him, like started walking at a clip, and he could not find him because this kid was greased lightning. So dad picked up the pace, started running after the child. And then when he finally got him and came back with him, the child was, kind of fussy because, he wanted the freedom. Freedom feels great. We all know this. Dad was not amused, as you might imagine. Loving, gentle, tender, stern, because that is dangerous. We are no longer going to entertain the dangerous. We're going to make sure that people know that there are consequences. When you expose my people to danger, when you put us in a spot where we have to make choices that no human being should have to choose, there will be consequences. And I'm saying it needs to be active. You can absolutely have a passive consequence. That's fine, 100%. Sometimes those are the best, honestly, because it's one of those things where the consequence starts to dawn. Sometimes I think that abrupt consequences, things like you did this, now this is going to happen. There is a sense of rebellion in many of us, myself included. God, I'm a stubborn ox from the word go. That doesn't go well because if you've made it clear what's happening because of what they did and what they see it as a punishment, and they see it as treating them like a child, and they will not care on principle, because you can't do that to me. I'm not a child to be punished like this. I reject it. Great. Reject it. And then there's a part of it where you just do it. You don't make a big fuss about it. You just meet the consequences. Consequences of this is I'm just not going to be doing the things I used to do for you. And I'm not even going to say it. You're going to reach out for something, and I just won't have the time for it. I'm not going to be available for something like that. For people who, whether by active or passive, I put people I know and love, people put me in danger, in jeopardy. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. And it'll start to dawn. It'll be one of those things like, hey, what's going on? Nothing. Not a thing in the world. And you continue to do things like that. You can. And once they start to realize, there will be probably a more in-depth conversation and explanation. Maybe there won't be. I don't know. I'll leave that to you because that may also spike that little bit of rebellion, but it will be one of those things like eventually I think it needs to be made clear once they understand that the friendship is moving in a different direction, that a clarification will probably be necessary. Oh, well, here's what happened. Here's how I feel about it. I've continued to tell you about this, and you continue to live exactly the way you want to live without any sort of change of trajectory. So in order to protect myself and my well-being, I am doing this in response. And they can fuss and fight and fume and do whatever it is they want to do about it, and that's going to have to be okay. It's not going to be great. If they want to make changes, if they want to move forward with it like that, great. No door is ever locked. You can shut the door, and you might try to lock it, but that doesn't mean there isn't a key for it. But here's the thing. We got to hold the key, and we have to be steadfast in cause and effect. This is what happened. This is my response. I could not have been clearer. I've repeated it to you numerous times. You know where I'm coming from, and this was just the line in the sand, and I am done. That's all there is to it. We can be cordial. I can say hi. It's not like I'm going to freeze you out. What you need to understand is that the sunshine is going to be shining elsewhere right now. You, sir, madam, all others, just entered Antarctica. Thank you. Just simple as that. I want us to thicken up. I want us to keep our close, and I want folks on the outside to understand that they could easily have stayed if they had not just insisted on not listening. I don't know. It seems so simple, right? I know human nature is tricky. I know navigating the human psyche can be very tricky because we know one thing needs to get done. I need to avoid cookies if I want a six pack, but that cookie looks so delicious. Maybe I can just add another 2 miles to my cardio regime, full well that I'm not going to do that extra 2 miles. And I wonder, what happened to my six pack? Well, what do you think what happened? You're asking questions. You're asking a question in bad faith because you know what happened. Pepperidge Farm happened. Bullard. That's what happened. So don't come whining and crying to me now. And it's the same thing. And I say these things. It's sort of like a chuckle. I want to keep it light. I do. I also want us to be very intentional with this kind of thing. I am so unbelievably done with having to be the peacemaker. Well, James, if you don't do it, who's going to do it? Anybody else. Anybody else. I am not the one. I'm done. I'm ready to pick up a sword every once in a while. I'm ready to fling that shield at somebody. I'm ready to take that mace and swing her because I'm really sick of some people getting to be just complete and utter assholes, name calling, childish, stupid, ridiculous, immature. And the moment we flip the script, we get pearl clutching and gasping and to all these things. No, no longer. I have no desire to meet you where you are. I'm just going to let you play in the mud hole by yourself because me and mine are going to be over here thickening up. Gosh, I love y'all. This feels so good. It feels so much better when I can just empty this occasionally. I love it when we can talk tender and delicious and sort of move through things gently. And I also love it when we get to pick up a stick and just beat the hell out of something. I'm mad. I'm disappointed. I'm disillusioned at the way this all went down because we had choices and we made them. And this was not what I had in mind for the greatest country on earth. And that's just what I got. If this is your first episode of Radical Joy, welcome. They're not all going to be fire and brimstone like this, but every once in a while, you might as well buckle up and put on your anti-flame retardant, whatever, because I'm going to bring some heat. If this isn't your first episode, chances are you've heard me get like this before. So welcome back. Love you. Glad you're here. If you're the review kind of person, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform where you're listening. Take a screenshot of that. Send it to us so we can send you some swag from the Radical Joy Podcast and CLW Studios. Nothing would please me more than for you to put that on a water bottle, a journal, laptop, wherever you want to stick your sticker. And then that way you can sort of tell the world about something that you get to enjoy here at Radical Joy. We are going to thrive, even if it's through an act of rebellion and radicalization of the joy we feel and will continue to shine. Mamas, papas, children's, and everybody else. Don't ever forget, we love y'all.